If I get everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That much easier for you to read though. Well, Chief is reading it.
Okay.
All right. All right, so thank you all for being here this evening for the Monday, October 17th, 2022 business meeting of the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel, litigation, and land preservation. And they're all three tonight. So that is all for my comments in regards to the executive session. Next on the agenda is accommodation for Officer Paul Zielinski, and I'm going to turn this over to Chief to take over from here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we'd like to recognize Officer Paul Zielinski for some excellent police work recently. So Officer Zielinski, if you could come forward. So I'll read the citation for everyone to hear about your heroic efforts. Officer citation of commendation awarded to New Britain Township Police Officer Patrol Officer First Class Paul Zielinski. Whereas on September 21st, 2022, the above named officer displayed a keen sense of observation and outstanding police work, which resulted in the arrest of a felon during the commission of a commercial burglary. Whereas Patrol Officer First Class Paul Zielinski was working the night shift when he observed a suspicious vehicle in the Mavis Discount Tire parking lot. Upon closer inspection, PSC Zielinski found multiple new tires and trash strewn around the vehicle and no one in sight. Recognizing this to not be normal, the building exterior was checked and an employee entrance door was found unsecured. Officers entered and were confronted by an intoxicated suspect claiming to be an employee. The business manager was contacted and confirmed the suspect had no permission to be in the business after hours, and the tires found outside were taken without payment. Whereas PSC Zielinski's dedication to duty, professionalism, and investigative skills led to the arrest of a burglar whose accident had gone undetected and further prevented the business from being victimized. Therefore, be it further resolved that PSC Zielinski be recognized and presented this citation of commendation for his outstanding actions in the performance of his duties as a member of the New Britain Township Police Department. Presented this 17th day of October, 2022, New Britain Township Board of Supervisors.
Let me do that. Tell me now.
Making a habit of being here. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Would you like a picture after this with the person who says this wouldn't be possible without? Well.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. Yeah, right.
When you get in trouble.
Greg, do you have the other one? Did you all send the other one too?
No, I'll take care of that.
Okay, I just wanted,
Yeah.
if it's still up there, I'll keep it. Thank you.
Second to make their exit. Night, night.
Night, thank you.
All right, the next on the agenda is a park and recreation vacancy interview. Dina Hahn?
Hoon.
Hoon. Oh, darn it. Go ahead, and if you'd like to step up to the table and introduce yourself. And I guess give your address as well, because I think that's our prerequisite.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gina Hoon. I live at 103 Galley Circle in the Highlands. I've lived there 20 years since 2010. And I saw the posting on Facebook. I'm an empty nester and lots of time on my hands, and I thought it would be interesting. I love living in Chalfont in Britain Township, and thought I had some time to give.
Yes, very good. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll put it in his personnel file.
Anything that you'd like to do in particular with parks or recreation? Is there something that you would see it's like to do or?
So, I mean, I live in the Highlands and I live down the street from the park and rec, the park there on Highland Drive. And my daughter actually, for her silver award for her Girl Scout, put the recycling bin there in the, so we've kind of been involved. When she was little, she's 24 now. But, we used to go to lots of parks. We used to go to North Jackson. She was a cheerleader. And so, I mean, I've gone to, lots of the parks. I'll be honest, she's not, I have gotten away, but I thought, I knew I used to do it when she was younger, so I just thought it would be interesting. And I was looking to volunteer.
Very good.
That's what we need. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gina.
All right, the next on the agenda is a Veterans Committee vacancy interview, Angela Barone, or Barone, Barone or Barone? Barone.
I live at 57 West Peace Valley Road in Chalfont. I moved here about 4 years ago from New York. I am a retired New York City police detective. I did 20 years there. When I retired, I moved here. I worked for 2 years at the Attorney General's office for their organized crime unit. And now I am fully retired. At that.
Same as
Are
always.
you,
Anybody have any questions?
Are you a veteran yourself or?
I am not a veteran. I am a veteran in the police. I was part of 9/11. Not part of 9/11. I was in third year. I was in my third year when 9/11 happened. So and I feel that started I feel close to veterans because a lot of veterans end up being veterans because of that event. And I think being a veteran as a police officer, as a detective, and New York City isn't easy. I don't want to call it a war zone, but it is not far from it. Working, but I think of the veterans. I like the veterans better because I would like to work with people who have that sort of stuff. 9/11 had a lot of people that had PTSD, all that other stuff. Same thing that veterans have, and I'd like to work with them because I feel closer. Not that I wasn't a soldier and I wasn't a veteran of the war, but I definitely am similar status to that.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Very cool. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for coming.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Mhm. All right, do we have any public comment this evening? Do we have anyone online for public comment?
We have one person online, but I believe he is on for the first resolution on the agenda. That they are attending virtually. One of the applicants
Oh, okay. Very good.
for that, well, 141.
All right, well, then we will move on to our presentation items. Again, these are informational only. Any possible action would be taken at a future business meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Okay, I'm gonna fall asleep saying it, the 223 preliminary budget presentation.
Actually, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. I've only got like a 45-minute presentation today. I know, look around, Craig is like, oh, God, here we go. But actually, it should be 2023 draft.
Okay.
Too, so that's my fault. Just give me a minute to get set up. Yeah, this is before. Yeah, that's the one I get final tonight.
Well, keep the very
Preliminary final pending advertisement. Be done with it.
What's that?
Pass our budget in October.
Uh-oh.
I'm not wearing that.
I think you're talking to Greg. Oh, you call him Mr. Kennard.
2023 draft budget, number 2. I hope you all had a chance to review the gobs of information that I forwarded to you like 2 minutes before. Not expecting anybody to have read that. I wanted to get it out of my office in more hands as a way to help put context to this presentation. Along with the budget that I forwarded to the board this afternoon is a memo that you should find helpful. Read through that memo because it highlights the major changes between draft 1 and draft 2. So tonight, I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of the budget. I'm going to keep it high level. It's kind of a supporting presentation to the information that was forwarded to you this afternoon. So here we are. I know it's kind of tough to read, but we are at October. This is the final draft budget. This is the last touch point of this budget prior to us shifting gears and moving into the preliminary budget. The preliminary budget is the first budget that the board will consider taking action on to adopt / authorize for advertisement. Currently slated for the business meeting in November, which is the timing that we used last year. I will give a final presentation of the preliminary budget at the workshop meeting November 7th. Now, I remember I heard a couple of supervisors last year inform me that in years past, the motion to authorize adopt happened at the work session meetings in November and then adopted the first meeting in December. We've got it set up in such a way that if the board would so choose to do so, we can do that. It's up to you. My plan is to continue with the methodology of work session. I'll give you the presentation, followed 2 weeks later at the business meeting to authorize adoption and advertisement. And then we pass it at the business meeting in December, currently scheduled for December 19th. Give that some thought, communicate to me if you'd like to move that timing up, if you're all comfortable with that, we can facilitate that. So this draft budget highlight, continued fiscal responsibility. There is a highlight of this township, one that I am happy to continue to promote. It's near and dear to my heart. This draft budget uses less cash reserves than was used in the 2022 budget. If you remember that conversation from last year, we used $25,000 less of cash reserves in 2022 than we did in the previous year. The 2023 draft budget uses $150,000 less of those cash reserves. That was my recommendation last year, to continue us to wean ourselves off of using those cash reserves to hopefully, you're going to see it later in the presentation, to smooth the curve, to make sure that we don't dip below in the future what we should be having always in our cash reserves. We'll talk about that in a little bit. If you were able to read anything from the memo that I forwarded today, favorable healthcare costs. Draft budget number one had a 10% expected increase. I try to go big, try to account for a large increase. The numbers that came in late last week, 5.4% increase. Really good. That coupled with our multi-trust discount, which I described in the memo, and the other benefits, the rate stabilization funds that are made available by Delaware Valley Trusts, we can suppress that number even further. Favorable healthcare costs. What this budget also does is continues moving forward with the board's authorization of expanding our current levels of service, hiring a full-time director of planning and zoning. The board is authorized the hiring. We've hired 2 additional public works employees. We have a third one that should be hired by the end of the year. Also a part-time events coordinator. If you remember, the budget for 2022 and 2023 includes an additional $100,000 of paving. You see Mr. Labrosi in the audience. Creek Road was just recently repaved. It's beautiful, right? If you haven't driven it, it just got finished today. It is wonderful. And so this whole idea is that, you know, the board, previous boards authorized the purchase of an in-house paving machine that we had never got to use because we never had the staff to fully man. We now have the staff to do these sorts of bigger projects. And that's just a taste of what we can do. So if you haven't yet, please take a drive down Creek Road and check out the great work, the paving work for our public works crew. And if you remember, the capital improvement plan that was passed in late September, this draft 2023 budget fully funds the capital improvement plan for 2023. So if you look at the budget, we've taken all of those capital expenses and put them in the appropriate 4 or 5 capital funds. Where do we get most of our revenue? For this slide, I'm looking at the 2 operations funds. We've got plenty of other funds, but these are the workhorses of our operations. Most of our operations come out of the general fund. A smaller portion of it comes out of the Parks and Rec operations fund. I tried to use a scaled version of what types of income we get. Earned income tax from the general fund, that's where we generate most of our revenue. Followed in a distant, in the dust, real estate taxes. And then all other sources, whether it be grant money, state aid, those sorts of things. Similarly, Parks and Rec operations fund, notice the revenue source that's missing. There is no earned income tax that supports our Parks and Rec operations fund directly. Real estate taxes, we have dedicated millage, interfund transfers from our land preservation fund, and then all other sources. Grants, we've got a significant grant money for the Neshaminy Greenway Trail that we saw the last meeting. Chris Stanford gave an update on that. Conversely, the operating fund expenses, we are a people business. Government is a people business. Most of our expenses are wrapped up in people. 78% of the total expenses are people related, whether that's direct salaries, whether it's insurances, whether that's benefits, anything related to people. 78% of our operating budget is people oriented. 12% are these routine costs. Those are the things that we go out and maintain. What's missing, if you remember from last year, I talked about investments. Since we now have a capital improvement plan, Investments are its own nugget now. And we're looking at capital improvement plan as its own thing outside of the operating fund. We've taken the capital expenses outside of the general operating fund and put them in capital funds, capital. Speaking of the capital improvement plan, it's a total investment of just under $7 million over 5 years. And it leverages the 4 capital funds existing. And one bonus, we're calling it a capital fund, which is the ARPA fund. And $1.2 million we got from the Fed. That's included in the capital improvement plan. One thing that I would like to draw the board's attention to is Fund 18. Please look at your capital improvement plan, Appendix B, and review the estimated funding of the capital plan. Fund 18, which is our general capital equipment plan fund, won't be funded starting in 2024. That's something that the board should focus in on and consider how they want to fully fund Fund 18, not just this year, but in years moving forward. Land preservation, we have dedicated EIT, earned income tax millage, associated with land preservation, which is 0.125%. For the 2023 draft budget, we're estimating approximately $800,000 in earned income revenue for land preservation. What makes it interesting with land preservation, we can use 25% of the balance of the taxes generated through land preservation for maintenance and development of open space that was secured by land preservation funds. Got to be kind of careful there. It's not for all open spaces. I was reading through the legislation earlier today, and it is specific to any open spaces, land preservation properties that were secured with land preservation dollars. Let's do a simple example. Coleman property. We purchased it for how much? One cool million, right? 1 million. Let's call it 1 million. We can use 25% of that for continued maintenance and development of $1,250,000. Bonus points for those who can tell me what the value of the land preservation money that has been transferred into Parks and Rec open space past years. Here's a hint. It's less than 250,000. Right, 114.5. So we have wiggle room, right? That gives me that makes me sleep a little better at night, knowing that we have resources available to help support our Parks and Rec operations fund. Something that the board should consider as we move forward in the future. I don't want us to become over reliant on that, but it's something that we can use in future budgets to help offset any increases in our Parks and Rec operating fund. So here's my favorite topic, our future consideration. This is from last year's budget presentation. I'd like to continue this conversation every year. You're going to get sick of it. What should our cash fund balance be? Let's focus on that question and hopefully answer. Government Finance Officers Association, they recommend 3 months worth of cash reserves at all times. So if we use a simple example of, let's round it to $6.5 million of total expenses for a year for the budget. Look at your budget, it's almost 6.5 million in expenses. Divide that by 12. We get $541,667 monthly expense. Average. We can split hairs. We can say, well, let's just keep it simple, right? If we multiply that by 3, we should always have $1.625 million in general fund reserves. That's good practice. General fund reserves are cash fund balance of our general fund, Fund 1, and Fund 15, which is our general fund reserves, general reserves. It's a combination of both of those things. One thing that is in our general reserve fund is what do we call it? Cash out?
PTO.
Cash out?
The accrued leave.
The
Accrued leave.
we're still trying to get our heads around what that value should be. We've got a chunk of money sitting there for accrued leave. That is, if all employees left simultaneously, what do we owe them in all of their accrued leave? It should be something, right? We should be budgeting for it. This cash reserves, we don't want to include that because that's that's just a different specialty. So 1.625, remember that number. So I have been using the total audited real dollars, cash fund balances, just in from 2021, plugged in chug. Holy cannoli, look at this, 2021, what is happening here? This is cash reserves. Why did we get that uptick? Don't read the heading, don't read the heading. Why did we get the uptick? ARPA money. It's inflating that number, right? So it makes it look like we actually received just under.
Bless you.
Allergic to my presenting tonight or what? It's starting giving me complex here. So if I back out the ARPA money that we received in 2021, that's what the graph looks like. So what's the number that we should be looking for to have in our cash reserves at all time? Oh, A for today. Yep, 1.625. So for all intents and purposes, let's look at the halfway point here. Oh, look at that. In 2024, the end of 2023, where are we going to be at? Right at that number. Look out, further years, it goes below. This is the part that I'm more interested in. I am not saying, please do not interpret this as, oh my God, you know, the house is on fire. No, no, no. There are so many variables. Bill, you and I. We'll get into the discussion later. Yeah. You know, it's something that we need to continue to keep our eyes on. And something that we make sure that we continue to have enough cash reserves. We don't know what our EIT is going to be in a year. We might get an inflated number one year that pushes that up. Every year it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. What this shows is a continued reduction of cash reserve usage by $150,000 a year. That's just a good habit for us to start getting into. Right? So here we are, summary. Like, Matt, you should have just gone to the summary page and quit talking about all the other stuff. That's what we care about. The summary page. Focusing in on the two major operating funds, general fund, parks and rec fund, and parks and rec operating fund. We've got total revenue, 5.6 million, total expenditures of 6.5. We have a deficit of $811,000. If we apply that $150,000 less than what we used in 2022, that would come in at $625,000. Here's that number. That's a good move. We're weaning ourselves off of using cash reserves. We still are then left with a deficit of $187,000 that we need to close the gap on. That's the bad news, general fund. Good news, Parks and Rec Fund. We had a deficit of $120,000, but we have an estimated budgeted reserve usage of $157,000. Parks and Rec Operations Fund, we always want to try to get that as close to zero as possible. We shouldn't be carrying high cash balances in that. We need high cash fund balances for the general fund. We now have a projected balance for 2023 of $37,000. That is a balanced fund. Next step, number one, eliminate that budget deficit. How do we do it? We got three mechanisms. One, use more of your cash fund balance. Gonna get the frowny face on that one. Let's not do that. Two,
Raise income.
oh, I was gonna say that number three. Yes, raise income. Or number three,
Spend less.
spend less. Cut. It's up to the board. I need to hear guidance from you, which technique you would like staff to take to develop that preliminary budget. I would also like the board to address the Fund 18 Capital Equipment Fund, whether or not you want to have that continued commitment of fully funding the capital improvement plan. If so, you will need to generate revenue and assign tax millage to that fund. Right now, Bonus points. How many mills are associated with Fund 18? Zero. Zero. Right. Greg, you got the bonus point on that. It's following along at home. Well done. Well done. Yeah. I'm wrapping it up. I'm wrapping it up. All right, so those are the two big heavy lifts that the board needs to provide guidance to the staff so we can then develop your preliminary budget. Preliminary budget on track to be presented at November 7th work session meeting. Yeah. So we can then have the motion to adopt and advertise at that work session meeting, if you all want to have an easier December. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? We could do that. If not, we can wait to the November business meeting. And then it's available for public inspection from that point, all the way up to the point of adoption, just 30 days. Any questions? That's all I got. See, it's wrapping it up. I'd just like to thank Mike and John and all of the department heads for their continued involvement in this budget development. Hopefully you've looked through your departmental requests. I'm not expecting that you've looked through today's. There's not much changes from today's. Just to see what those departmental requests are. There's nothing outlandish there. This is about maintaining quality levels of service. It is not a fluff budget. I think it's a pretty right-sized budget. Question?
Do you have any ideas on cutting expenses? Start there.
Well, the big nugget is the $100,000 that the board dedicates to increased pay.
I don't think so.
All right.
Our largest expense has the salary.
Sure. Yep, people, we're a people business.
When do you have some available funds and then speed you guys up again?
What? We buy a lunch.
Well, I mean, the one thing we have to address in regards to the Fund 18 is that, you know, the Keller Road Bridge is part of the capital improvement plan, and that size of that project would dictate it would be more of a debt item.
Yes.
Than it would be a funding.
Yes.
Situation.
If you remember from my conversations with the capital improvement plan,
Right.
there's the Keller Road Bridge and potential investments in the police department that we put out later in the 5 years. If we could lump those two big investments into potential long-term debt, which would then come out of the capital plan.
Do you have any numbers if we were to go with option 2?
Your option 2 increase?
What would 1 millage increase
Yes.
That's it.
bring in? And what would it cost per household?
Yes. $183,000 is 1 mil estimated. And if we just do 1 mil, it's just plugging the numbers. I did one with capital improvement. The Fund 18, we did a mill there and a mill in the general fund. And it was an additional, oh my gosh, Sean, what was it? $70 a year, I think it was. Yeah, just under $70 a year. Total average tax bill would be just at like $600 per resident for the year.
That's the average.
Average
So it'd be an increase of $70
per year.
2 mil.
That's for 2 mills.
Okay.
35 to 100.
There are those people that are not averaging that. But anyway, I had, and you all are aware, I've been pushing Matt to get us numbers in regards to there is another way for income to go up to the township, and that is through future or approved development. And based on our scribbling on a piece of paper the other day in his office, we will see a full mill increase of revenue over the next 2 years due to the development coming in with High Point and county builders. So we will see a increase of close to $200,000 without having to raise taxes at all.
But can you guarantee that will?
Okay, they're going to build the houses and there's going to be people that live in them. And to afford one of those townhouses at $550,000, each person's going to have to make a minimum of $100,000, which you're looking at about $100,000 in EIT coming from just there, not necessarily even including the apartments. Real estate tax wise, with 200 units coming on, we're looking at about another $100,000.
But you can't guarantee that. If they're not, they're not even built. I'm saying they haven't broken ground. It's hard
But
to.
before I put a burden on our taxpayers, we know these items are coming down the road and that the township is going to generate revenue from them.
In 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
It's not gonna be next.
Yeah,
year,
not,
or
not,
not
not,
gonna be next
not
year.
really, it's not gonna help with.
And we're more concerned with 2 years from now than we are next year in terms of the tax increase.
Why 2 years?
Because
That's where the.
that's where the dips are.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if that was when ARPA.
No, watch the wire.
Love this.
I personally, you know, I think that we need to consider funding the capital improvement fund, the Fund 18, before we need to consider general fund increases, because we can't approve a capital plan and then not fund it.
Well, I
Let me
would
ask
say
you a
that,
question. Let me ask you a question. Typically, at the end of the year, although I want to make sure we do it before the end of the year, we take our anticipated excess in earned income tax. We transfer that up to general reserve fund. What would be the board thought of transferring that up to the general capital fund?
That's fine, but I still feel like we need to consider, we need to figure out a way to continually dedicate funding to it.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is we have typically, well, I shouldn't say typically, but I know last year, probably, we've done this year. But anyway, generally, we have taken that excess fund and put it into our general reserve. Right, but instead of doing that, I think we can put it in the general capital reserve. And we almost always, assuming the economy doesn't go depression-wide, we typically always have excess money coming in to our EIT. So we
Excess.
fund it via that way. Pardon?
More
Excess?
than what we budgeted.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, you have to vote excess money.
That's one of those ones where you always, you know, you don't
You
always, but you attempt to underestimate your revenue.
And that links into this exercise too. This assumes that our budget is what the budget, the end of year budget is the same as what we passed. To Bill's point,
Correct.
we've been lucky that we've realized extra EIT every year that has offset the use of our general reserves. In 2021, we budgeted $800,000 of general reserves. We only lost $55,000. That was per audited numbers. Our general reserves went down by $55,000, even though we budgeted 800. So we're using, right? We're not. What am I trying to say? It's complicated, right?
We're not going as far into the hole.
Thank you.
as What was originally anticipated.
For the win. Thank you.
I mean, that'd be one of my thoughts. As I said, I still want to sit down with Matt and the crew, because I have some other questions with the budget. I guess one of them is, I see a $100,000 item on there for the police department for refitting the police department.
This is for, when we discussed it, when we met, it's for our architectural plan review to do an assessment that is required for accreditation.
And that's $100,000.
It's, so what we're looking for is consultant for architect and engineering to determine what we can do with the existing facilities, or is it more cost effective to build a new facility? The $100,000 probably not gonna use the entire $100,000 to do that. In my experience, it's closer to 75,000. For someone to actually come in now, we're talking about designing a new police department or renovating downstairs, so
That
giving
would
us
meet
the options.
accreditation.
What's that?
That would then meet accreditation.
Yes, it would meet accreditation standards.
Let me ask you one other question. This came up last year, and I don't know whether anything was ever done on it. But I know that we have an ordinance that rental properties have to be registered with the township. And I'm not sure how we determine or enforce payment of earned income tax. Whether everyone's registered, if you ever sat down with Keystone to see if they cross-check with the state or federal government. I know there's many people that don't bother filing tax returns, so we're never going to really find them. That was last, trust me. Anyway, so that's also a way to increase income.
Yep.
But I do agree with Greg that we need to have a dedicated source of funding for the capital plan that we adopted. Frankly, $35 a year. I know people that spend that in 2 days at Starbucks. So I'm not really thinking that a 1 mil increase is a terrible thing. If it's used to dedicated fund the capital improvement plan, which we all agree is desperately needed. I throw that out there.
I'm waiting for Stephanie to say something.
No, I mean, I agree that we all agree that the capital improvement plan is important and we need to find a way to fund it. I mean, we still have the operating deficit to deal with. So.
How long has it been since the millage was raised in this township? Other than.
Long time.
It's been 3 years. Yeah.
When we did
3
the,
years.
correct, I think before that.
Well, we reinstituted the land preservation percentage and then the park and rec melody.
We should be able to fully fund our township every year without having to really look at how we do that. We need to put our thinking caps on and as a township, work out what we feel is the most important thing to do.
No, and like I said, you know, I still stand by, I think we need to fund 18 somehow. You know, this in a structured way that isn't dependent upon the vagaries of how much money we spend year to year. But, you know, we always also need to be cognizant of what's going to be coming into the township through other avenues in the future as well. You know,
We can always change it every year. We
well,
have to fully
but,
fund it
yeah,
this year.
no one ever stops collecting the money that they started to collect. So, once it's coming in, you find ways to spend it, and I've.
Isn't that odd that the earned income tax is now the major revenue producer, which didn't exist
Yeah.
30 years ago? But that income that's coming in from developments, addressing what Stephanie brought up, is still the deficit in our budget in general fund. I think a 1 mil increase, which hasn't occurred in over 10 years. Considering the price of houses being purchased. It's not going to be a hardship on too many people. Who do you think it's going to be a hardship on?
Well, you still have to remember that you still have a good percentage of people who are over 55, 60. They're not, if they're at retirement, they're close to at retirement.
You're talking
They
one.
I
So
mean,
even though the cost of living is going up this year, inflation has far outpaced what they're gonna get.
right,
Well, actually, Social Security is giving a 9% increase.
Yeah, but inflation, but that's based on a whole year inflation month to month.
And remember, earned income tax only affects those of us who are working for a living. There are many people who are retired who are not paying tax on the retirement income, their social security.
Well, that's where millage is against the real estate, which that hurts people with property on lower incomes. EIT, fixed income, yeah. EIT is the only one that doesn't affect that.
Right, so they're not paying into EIT.
Right.
They're only paying real estate tax.
Right,
And
so
what you're telling me is that we haven't had an increase of the millage in 10 years or more?
No, we had the park and rec, it
General
increased.
no, it's an increase,
Yeah.
Right.
it's an increase.
not for the general fund.
General
In
fund.
fact, we actually shifted some out of general fund over to park and rec.
Yeah.
That was part of the change 3 years ago.
Well, I think we need to look for places where possibly we could cut expenses. Secondly, we need to make sure we're collecting from everyone that owes us. And third, I think we need to raise taxes a mill, $35 a year per household or so,
For Fund 18.
or to have a dedicated source of funding. We sit here today with the capital improvement plan of $7
$7 million.
million
Over 5 years.
without any money.
dedicated to
And
it.
this should have been, when you're in a condo, part of your fee is current maintenance and reserve for replacement. We haven't been putting any money aside for reserve for replacement. And now the can got kicked down the road and now it's kicked up against the dais here. We've got to figure something out. I understand it's not popular politically, talk about tax increases. But my taxes go up every year, every place else, except this township. And I think my school taxes, which I pay $7-some thousand, real estate taxes entirely $7-some thousand a year. Taxes that actually go to the township, about $500.
We do a lot of good with a small amount of money, and at the moment, that small amount of money is not able to be stretched. So we have to really ask ourselves how we need to either increase that income or decrease the kind of services or expectations our public wants from.
Well, we're not going to see a decrease in services next year if we don't raise the general fund. But I agree with Mary Beth. I really think that, Fund 18 should be funded. I guess a mill is fine. That's about as far as I'm willing to go right now because I would like to see what's
Coming down.
coming down the pipe.
And of course, if the doomsayers are right, we go into a recession.
We're gonna have to contract seriously.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
But I'd never listen to the doomsayers, because they just do that to get ratings.
Okay, so I'm thinking it would be beneficial for everyone to meet with the trifecta again, just to talk about me, Mike, John, trifecta. Just to talk about where your heads are at and explore, get into those weeds of what are these numbers, and please review that budget, review the departmental request. The departmental requests have explanations of what each thing is and why. And identify questions that you have and help us identify areas where you think we can make some.
And please, everyone respond to Matt's email and schedule a time to go with him and Ryan to Road Bridge.
Yes, please.
Because that is the single largest item on our capital improvement plan.
And I was gonna have that conversation tonight, but we're gonna talk about that next month.
Well, I've been there, I've looked at it.
Yep.
I have my opinion.
Well, I thought it would be beneficial if you went with Matt and with Ryan, who is the, our road master.
Be happy to do that.
Very good.
Tax season is ended.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Over the next 3 weeks. We got a bonus week in October. We got an extra week before the next one, so. What's tomorrow? Probably good. For you, I'll make time anytime. Thank you all.
Here we go. Okay, action items. Oh, great. Anybody else hear that? No.
Don't tell me you're getting old.
Okay, action items. Let me just look over here. Motions. All right, so we're on motion A. I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve the minutes of the September 26th, 2022 workshop meeting and the October 3rd, 2022 workshop meeting of the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Quick amendment, isn't the 26th a business meeting?
Yeah, it should have been.
Okay, so.
I'll amend my motion.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
second it.
We have a first and a second for the amendment of the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried. Z, for a motion from the board to approve the schedule of bills dated October 7th, 2022 in the amount of $158,488 and to authorize the township manager to pay all bills for the attachment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comments or questions in regards to the bill list?
I have a question on the item that we're paying to Central Bucks School District.
And we owe school taxes to Central Bucks on a tax parcel where we have our cell towers.
Which then get reimbursed. Right?
Well, we get paid by the
Yeah.
cell towers.
Okay, all right, that was my only question.
All right, we've had a question been answered. All those in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, or the next motion is motion C. Looking for a motion from the board to approve all items on the consent agenda dated October 17th, 2022 for the attachment.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Are there any questions in regards to the consent agenda? No. And seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Now we're on to motion D. I'll be looking for a motion from the board to approve resolution 2022-22. 141 Independence Lane, preliminary final approval for the attachment.
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any questions in regards to the motion? If there's no questions and the engineer, no one has anything else to add, then I will take a vote. All those in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. The next motion on the agenda is motion E. I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve resolution 2022-23. 409 West Butler Avenue, preliminary final approval amendment for the attachments.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any questions in regards to the resolution? Is anybody, if no one has any questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Alrighty. Motion F. I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve resolution 2022-24. Public improvement dedication for New Britain Woods for the attachments.
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, is anybody have any questions?
So let's just clarify that one. for
Okay,
now.
all right, very good. Who wants to take that?
Clarify what?
Just clarify, where is New Britain Woods and what's the dedication?
This is your, so you know, you just went through a dedication process. So this, and actually, Mr. Garten recommended this to staff. I think it's a great addition that you haven't done in the past, where your resolution documents accepting the right of way for the road within Britton Woods off of Barclay Road. So that, if you notice, Janine, I hope you have Janine's letter in there. So that has been going on for years, back and forth. We're finally at the point where the job is complete. We signed off and everything. We worked with the teacher's office on the financial security for your maintenance period. And at this point, you accept the roads and they become your roads, subject to if there's any issue over the next 18 months, we notify the developer, they correct that. So this is where the project's pretty much closed out and you go into a maintenance period, but it's public streets at that point. They're not maintained by the developer. Now, other developments, and I'm not on the same page on this, anything new coming in, probably unless you go otherwise, you know, remain private roads, like High Point, I believe, will remain private roads, but this was approved with public streets. So HOA has to take care of High Point, HOA has to take care of the other numerous cul-de-sacs coming in. Same thing, not on the same page. Not every township does their way, but more and more trying to reduce costs, operating costs. And the HOA is private maintenance, but this is going to be your public streets.
That's good to go on.
It depends, to be honest with you, that's something the staff discusses and, you know, take it case by case. Real small projects, cul-de-sacs are not worth. We allow the HOA, you know, small gated private.
Steep slopes, narrow roads.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want those.
So this, we work a lot behind the scenes with the doctor at this point, and we're going to push something of those things.
Are there any other questions? All right, all those in favor then, please signify by saying aye. Motion carried. And I'm assuming, since I can't get any more, that it concludes the motions for this evening.
No.
Oh, well, okay, I don't have any of the rest of them.
Okay.
It's gonna be somebody upset in the back room.
Okay, it stops it. Oh, here we go. I don't know what to get it. Sometimes I don't, I really want to throw this iPad, just like I did the Surface, but it, whatever. Anyway, I'm looking for a motion for the board to authorize the advertisement of ordinance 2022-11-05, the zoning amendment, stormwater amendment.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any questions or comments in regards to this amendment, zoning amendment?
If you recall, this is the amendment to zoning. When you changed your stormwater management ordinance, certain portions of what was recommended, our township doesn't have in stormwater management, our township has it in zoning. Thus, we're seeking to change the zoning ordinance to complete the change to stormwater management.
Good. Any other questions? Comments? No. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Carried. Seems like it only wants to act up in a public meeting. Motion 8. I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve the roadway pavement AI expense.
Yep.
For road paving plan per the attachments.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, do we have a robot to explain this?
Sure. Artificial intelligence. And so hopefully, you know, those who are interested checked out the website for robotics. I'm going to nerd out a little bit. For those who are interested, I highly suggest you check out Nova. Remember that show from years past about the DARPA challenge, the first DARPA challenge? They talked about autonomous vehicles. That was the first DARPA challenge. This is how we got autonomous vehicles. This is a Reader's Digest super condensed version. Long story short, the folks who won that competition were Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon has become a hotbed for anything transportation, intelligent transportation, robotics. This company, Robotics, is influenced by Carnegie Mellon. They're out of Pittsburgh. So anything that is influenced by Carnegie Mellon University, I am interested in. This is the first step to our road pavement plan. They have developed an AI, artificial intelligence, based upon a mobile device. You submit to them your road centerline file. They create a road navigation system. You mount your device, use their app. You drive every center line of your township roads. They collect that data and they assign a value every 3 feet based upon the surface condition. Having done this in a previous life, this is a really good first step to build a more robust pavement improvement plan that we can then calculate where we should be improving roads over the next 5 to 10 years and assign values to that, which then enables us to communicate to taxpayers and residents of when roads will be repaved, curbs, sidewalks, ADA, ramps. All of those things can then be put into a GIS-based model. This is the foundation of that. So also missing from the motion was that this is being paid for out of the liquid fuels fund. This is not out of general fund. If you remember, the 2022 budget includes a portion of money dedicated in liquid fuels for the road pavement plan. Long story short, we are going to be partnering with Township's engineer to use this data to develop a fully robust GIS-based model that will be updated, not just using this, but more robust to show all township roads. It's pretty cool stuff. I'm excited. I know, Craig's like, oh.
No, Jim, I promised that I'm a GIS coordinator to keep a buffer between.
We're gonna nerd out.
Until we're ready to actually.
Yeah.
Put it out to bid and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, right.
So we'll come in towards the tail end of this complete. And we'll have our GIS coordinator been with the field more and been with you since I've been here for some years. So he did come for well. He managed all your plans and your zoning maps and all that. And he's actually working with us on open space plans and land preservation, other stuff we talked about. So I don't think they've met yet. I'll bring it over to Alex and Alex and
Yep.
Well, I did a little Googling and I found a white paper from the UK that was comparing this robotics thing to a human being doing it. And it was much more robust,
Yes.
the question. But I find it interesting that it's now owned by Michelin.
Yep.
So
That was a recent acquisition.
very recent.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Great. I did go to the website, but unfortunately, I could not get in unless I gave them my information, which I refused to. So, well, I'll get innumerable emails or some stuff from now on.
You're doing some magic over there?
Yeah, I'm like,
No,
why?
it's switched screens again. Just,
what?
I thought maybe it was my pencil.
I'm watching Craig go like this the whole time.
No, it keeps putting it in an edit
There-
form, so I can't scroll
Is there a band in the audience I didn't know about?
Anyway.
So, and all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item is motion I. I'm looking for a motion for the board to approve the First Amendment conservation easement for 123 Creek Road for the attachments.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Who wants to take this one?
Mm,
I believe the applicant is here also.
You've already gone through the presentation from the applicant who's here tonight. We spent the last couple of weeks working with their professionals and the solicitor's office. Nothing has changed since you saw the presentation. We did receive a lot of documents, which I think are in your packet. We signed off on October 13th. We reviewed through the legal descriptions for the modification as well as the new plan. And keeping with how the solicitor's office makes changes, this is the First Amendment, which I actually like. We've had several green stuff where the First Amendment second. So all they're doing is going to be replacing the legal descriptions and the exhibits with these new ones. That's all the language, nothing else has changed in the agreements. Those documents are, I actually gave those to Sean tonight, and they will be reported in the near future. I believe they will need to sign the agreement, so yes, is there motion for them to sign, or that is another agenda item?
It's just to agree to the as it's written in the agenda.
Yeah, I would say, so you're actually approving tonight the documents that I've approved, and then approving for signature at a later date, the agreement that's prepared. So,
So do we need to amend the motion?
No, that's.
No,
what
we
wrote
motion
down.
as written, but
We worked that out.
Is there any questions from the board? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting through the budget presentation. Good, appreciate it.
Luckily, I'm not your seat, I'm gonna say that. Motion carried. I'm looking for a motion for the board to authorize advertisement of the Coleman property demolition bid.
Motion J.
I think I-
Oh, okay. I heard that. Okay.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And the first and a second.
So hopefully you all were able to catch up on your light reading.
Well, actually, can I ask a question? Does anybody have any questions?
Well, it doesn't.
Oh, darn it.
So we didn't include it because it doesn't become public until you approve it. So that's why we sent that separate link for you all.
Yes,
I read the bid specifications and the garage apartment is a
And alter.
add-on.
Yep.
We haven't yet decided.
Yep.
I did read it, see. I told you.
Just thanks to Mike Walsh, Assistant Manager Mike Walsh, and Solicitor Sean Gresh for pulling that together. That was a pretty heavy lift, so thank you.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next on the agenda is motion K. I'll be looking for a motion from the board to approve.
What's that?
I don't know, he growled. I'll be looking for a motion for the board to approve the purchase of a new place front
Oh, I forgot to put it on.
for North Grand Park per the attachments.
I'll make that motion.
So this was a late last week edition, pretty fast moving. Long story short, you know, the saga with
Non-appearing. new
Yeah.
set For North Grand.
we were able to secure the refund from the existing, the previous, provider. We met a couple of weeks ago with a different provider who is able to provide to us a similar play structure for, what was it, $11 cheaper than the original. Yes, it looks a little different, and the Parks and Rec Board were all polled on it. They were informed about it, and all of their reactions were, we preferred the original, but in the interest of time, let's get it done. They unanimously recommended to the board approval.
I have a question. I looked at the pictures you provided. Are there swings that will be with this?
Yes,
It doesn't appear.
so this was, right, this was just the play set
Okay.
part of it. There are swings included.
I saw it in the bit, I saw it in the price, but I didn't see, that's fine.
Because like swing sets are swing sets, there wasn't much to look at for that. It was the major difference was the climbing
I'd like
apparatus.
to get something there for a resident.
As would we, and
Wait
as
a
of,
year, I think it's-
as of today, they are still maintaining.
Can I? I'm trying to interrupt. Was this on the publicly circulated agenda?
Well, I'm just about to tell Matt,
That's
I was gonna say to him, it didn't end up on the agenda we posted, so they just have to amend the agenda
Oh.
and add it as a separate motion. I was just gonna bring that up.
Let's void the motion to approve, and we'll go to take a motion from the board to add item K, which is a motion to approve the purchase of a playground set for North Grand Park.
I'll make that
Is
motion.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That will be motion K. Now we are on motion L, which is I am taking a motion to approve the purchase of North
You
Grand
can still
Park.
use Ken.
Well, no, the motion to put it on the agenda has to go before the actual item.
The motion put on the agenda would be K.
Yeah.
The motion itself would be.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. I'm there.
So now I need another motion L.
I'll make a motion to approve.
No.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second? Does anyone have any other questions? We're all good?
5-week lead time. He said, he's saying that it should be manufactured, installed before Christmas.
And
Aye.
okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. And that, because it's my motion correctly, please our motion items for this evening. Next item on the agenda is information items. The Township manager report.
I don't have much more to discuss more than, other than the budget presentation that I talked about earlier and aside. I just wanted to, again, thank the Public Works crew for the repaving of Creek Road. And again, please take a drive down there. They did a great job.
They did a great job on the schoolhouse.
Yes, well, they didn't, so that was a subcontract.
That was a subcontract.
Yep, so Creek Road, we did it in-house.
And that's from Callow Hill to
152. Yep. Yep, just completed today. There's no line striping, so just be careful yet. They'll be out there shortly. That's all I have.
Well, you have another item on the agenda.
That's mine.
Well, it's still under township manager's report.
Oh, yeah, yep. Hold on. Hold on.
I read your memo, very well done, memo.
Old Iron Hill Trail update. So hopefully we are just inundating you with a whole bunch of light reading. It came up at the last meeting about the Old Iron Hill Trail. It's one of those things that, when we talk about it, frequently it becomes something that it really isn't. So what we wanted to do is complete a research exercise and document everything. Mike, I gotta tell you, he was like a bulldog on a pork chop with this thing, right? I know, right? Like that, tenacity. Compiled that memo and all of those attachments because it was objective. It enabled me to learn about it as well, and hopefully you all did too. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Mike, and if you all had any questions or need further clarification, the floor is his.
Yes, so it was a very good pork chop, I guess. I'll just go with that. I just wanted to make sure the board was able to get into everything and make sure we brought it up tonight just to make sure. My goal was just, I went through minutes after minutes after minutes looking for when it was brought up and tried to find any supporting document that went along with it. If you have any questions, let me know, or remember something that because a lot of this stuff took place while I was not here. So if you remember something that may put me down a path to find some more information, please just let me know.
Yeah, I think it's something else. A lot of attachments.
Yes.
We have some serious conversations about it.
Surprised that there was a meeting between whoever was doing this private municipal master trail map, which I asked Mike to print out and color for me, so I could try and understand what they're talking about.
Oh, there were county-wide meetings.
Countywide meetings, meetings with this group who met with the residents. And interesting, options they came up with. I don't know how they thought they were going to fit them onto that road.
Yeah.
But,
It's a simple line on that map,
Yeah.
but it's not that.
well, if you look at one of the attachments, they actually have a picture, they have 3 options and they have pictures of people walking that road and they only show the nice open spot where nothing built or wasn't built on the left side, and they don't show the swoosh areas. They wanted a road, they wanted a walking trail, and they wanted a buffer or a bike lane in between. Nice thought, but unless we were taking about 40 feet of people
back then.
property, that's not. But the other interesting thing is they were thinking of adding something through Chapman Road as opposed to Old Iron Hill. So there was a lot there, and it's over a period of probably 20 years. So anything that they did 20 years ago is probably not very relevant today. But thank you for doing that. It was interesting.
To be revisited.
Indeed.
All right, next item on the agenda is departmental reports.
So the departmental reports have been added to the meeting packet. And are there any questions? All right.
Bobby, do you have anything specific you'd like to?
Nothing that's not already on the board, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions about the aforementioned departmental report?
Not really about that, but I was gonna ask a question about the trunk and tree.
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat. The department's putting that on, and
So we're co-hosting with New Seasons at New Britain. They actually brought it up. asked us to join them. And so far I contacted, I know the fire department's going to be there. EMS is going to try to be there. We have several of the county organizations, county service organizations that are going to be there as well. So anybody else that wants to participate will be there.
Cool. Thank you, Chief. All right, Craig, you're wearing your battle armor?
You skipped over me.
Oh, it's supposed to record, sorry.
Hold yourself, Greg, over there. Apart from the discussions which occurred in executive session, the only world solicitor report I have for this evening, Mr. Chair, is that as the board directed, I have contacted the zoning hearing board solicitor, TJ Walsh, to inform him that the supervisors have authorized my office to enter and oppose the petition for variance filed by 1100 Horizon Boulevard. That hearing is scheduled for this coming Thursday evening. Once the hearing is concluded, I'll obviously report back to the board.
All right, fantastic. Any questions for the solicitor? All right, Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you have our October engineering report. I will note, we got 2 submissions, after this was prepared. High Point, plans came back, this is what we call a check set, so you're not gonna see them again until they have to address all the conditions of approval. I did call, make a couple calls again. It looks like the demolition and the costs and just the logistics of everything is what's holding that part up. So they weren't in any hurry to get the land development plans back in. They're pretty much, we're getting down to the end, work on the record plans and escrows and development agreements. So it's, once they couldn't get the demolition started this summer, it looks like I don't have a date of when they're going to start yet, but they just submitted those plans last week. And then on Friday afternoon, and Matt and Ryan Janine, Mike will be getting an email from the developer from Toll Brothers. They worked their magic on the sketch plan for the property behind Wawa, and they now have a by right plan. I'm told. The township will be so of course I get the sketch plans. Hey, can you look at it? Tell us it's okay. And they said, slow down. They like to proceed with land development. So, but they've asked for a revised sketch plan review. I said, needs officially submitted to the township. They will do that. Now it's an active application and escrow and all that, but I still, if they're asked for formal review, I ask them to always submit that to the zoning office. So, Nate Fox just emailed today saying he will do that, and then Matt will share that with you. From what I saw this morning, I just opened it up. Everything looks the same. It looks like they're down to 44 units. I think they were at 47. So there's your impervious coverage. They shrunk a couple of the buildings and lost a few more units. So I will
Be interested to see how they get a buy right out of that with traffic pattern and lot.
the layout is, I literally just opened up, preparing for the night, but I wanted to update you guys because I knew we'd come in and we wouldn't see it for a few weeks. So the layout is identical. There's connection to Wawa. They're working on cleaning up Creamery Tire in the back, the parking area, landscaping they added, redoing their parking lot a little bit. So there was some improvements made, or at least at the sketch plan level to that to address your concerns. So, so I anticipate you'll probably see that. I don't know, not the end of November, so it might not be there. We'll have to see if they want to come to visit me or not, or wait till December.
Once they submit.
Yeah. So, we have not spoken, Matt and I were at the solicitor's office. We got an email that was related to land development, the Lohan, a major subdivision that you've already approved. There's issue of planning module and sewer. This is where they're going to Hilltown Township, and we've already worked all that out. It's a pretty serious email to Matt from the director that I think some of this, it opens up some other issues. I think the board needs to start looking at Track 537. And I think Matt and I are on the same page with some planning that needs to be done of updating your sewer areas and your mapping and all that, and along with your land preservation maps. I think it's time, and we talked about staff level, but early next year, once we're done with these zoning amendments and some other amendments we have. I think we got to really look at your sewer map and giving direction to the authority of what you want done, not the other way around. Water, the shop on the Britain sewer. And I'll leave it at that, but I think we should have a discussion about how to address that. DEP's copied, so I'm a little upset. I think it's not appropriate communication, including DEP and communication between the authority and the township on your Act 537, how you guys want to manage it. So I'll leave it at that. I believe that was it. So, any questions?
I don't think anybody else has anything except for.
Can I ask for clarification? So when you say it's the township's 537 payment, 537, do we devise that in conjunction with the Shell Point New Britain Sewer Authority?
Yeah.
So,
You don't have to, but I advise you since it's your own authority.
yeah, but I'm just saying, so it's supposed to be a joint.
Yeah, and that's how we've done it before.
Project.
The last one,
Document. So is there something that you feel like has changed in the way things are being implemented or the way that our township is growing, that we should relook at it?
all of the above.
Okay.
Bigger thing is there's a transition area that staff discussed where, and I helped with that back then, where they didn't really want to extend public sewers because there wasn't a lot of development. There was one lot, there's a little bit of sewer, so we call it a transition area to see how things transition. And I think there's more and more popping up with development. We ended up sending it to an applicant to Town. I don't think he doesn't like that. No one really likes that. So I also, what type of facility do you want? So this low hand is force main, a pressurized force main in the public street versus gravity. You can dictate, no, you would like to see gravity unless, you know, you can approve what type of facility. Now, the authority has a lot of say in that, but it's more planning part of that. And you want to expand sewer in certain areas. Could be no, could be yes, but I know there's more and more smaller projects where sewer is being extended, and I'm not sure you're approving every single extension. You have onesies and twosies, so to speak, but then the next person wants sewer, the next person wants sewer. Our office gets a ton of calls. Usually tonight, Mazio, that's across from the Saul subdivision, on Mill Ridge is upon it. So he wanted his bill as part of that. The township said no, so now he's coming to do his planning document and send a planning module and do the planning for the properties there. Other people don't do that, and I think again we need to reinforce the process of approving planning modules and how all that takes place. The planning should happen first, not construction, installation, stubbing out. So there's a lot of technical stuff, but I think you guys haven't been through it. I wrote your Act 537 when I was at Carroll Engineering, so that was 16 years ago.
So it's time to read it.
And CKS wrote part of it for the public sewer, so we worked together on that.
I just have one question about High Point. So they're not gonna do demolition until spring?
I haven't gotten a date yet. I just know that they were just saying for summer and it was not, we know we did deadlines.
They're still having issues with maintenance over there?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's unmaintained. So, which is,
Do you want me, I mean, I know the developer, I can.
I don't know the last time it was mowed, I mean.
Are did they purchase that transfer happen?
I have no idea, I don't know who's taking care of it.
Not to you would know that.
I also know the County Line Road hasn't been fixed either, that sidewalk is still overgrown, so. But that's a different property
Yeah.
owner,
I know that citation was
so,
follow up on
but
that.
yeah.
If you wanna reach out, mention the issue,
If their plans have really changed, maybe I can get them to stop in your work session and talk. I know it's a big project. Everybody calls about it. Everybody wants to know. So I can ask John Rothman and Joe Morse are really good individuals. They can explain what's going on.
Yeah, because people are still using the tennis courts, I mean, how is that take,
It's gonna, once it starts,
yeah.
we're gonna all have our hands full on the start of construction.
but
Maybe
as,
this, if we ask them to come in front of the board, maybe that would be a bit of a let's see where everything stands and be able to get us a report. of when-
I would just like to know how people are using parts of the facility if
They're not
that-
there.
If they're not there, or who owns it and how they're getting the
We
permission.
have an empty facility that,
And if they don't, I'll at least get them to give me a written update that I could.
Are there any other comments or questions for the engineer? No. All right. All right, Board of Supervisors comments. All right.
I just have, were you saying something?
I think she had one or two, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to give a little update from Ken Jones's project with the free trees. He has had 100 free trees delivered in the last week and will be asking for any volunteer from the township. If they would like to contact him, the email will be in the chamonixwatershed@gmail.com. And since it's such a big project, we'll be not just doing one big project on a weekend. You would be able to come out most probably anytime in an afternoon if it's not raining, come and plant trees. So. yeah.
Can I ask you to send me some of that information? I can put it on our website and social media.
Absolutely. And I'll be saying the same thing again tomorrow night at Public Works.
Park and Works.
I'll forward that to you.
Please and thank you.
What's he doing with the extra topsoil?
There will be no extra topsoil. These trees, okay, so the trees, if you haven't seen them, they're in little tubes. Some of them are in a little.
Oh, there's no, oh, goodness.
But some of them, some of them are big.
Gotcha.
And it all depends on what is the type of tree. So
So you could almost use a bulb planter to cut the hole really.
And there's some going into Marshall Circle whenever he gets free trees. And he spoke to Ryan and had a planning meeting with him last week. That if we do end up keep getting free trees, if the township could use them, if they're chopping down trees that are dead ash and everything, would they like them to be able to replant in different areas? So.
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
There, most of the dead ash they're already in a tree row, so, I'm not sure they survived if they're.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Depends what kind of trees, but we won't get into that.
And where they are.
I had a comment. I attended the PSAT's one-day conference on October 6th. It was very interesting. Mr. Cassidy was one of the presenters. One of the presentations was extremely interesting about how to conduct your public meetings. And this individual stated that it's not usual to have either the solicitor or the engineer sit through the meetings. Which kind of spun my head around because I've never seen it done any other way. And other interesting things about security and meetings and things which I would probably rather discuss in private, having to do with security. But it was very worthwhile and it was a lot of fun. Sorry you missed it.
Are there any other board comments? All right, is there anything else before my announcement and adjournment?
We just got a lot of stuff for y'all to sign, so.
I'm gonna come back. I'm not doing tonight, I'm out of here. All right.
Well, a majority of the stuff is for you anyways, Greg, so.
I'll be back. All right, so prior to a motion for adjournment, I will be making the following announcement. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Newburgh Township will take place on Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Newburgh Township building. The agenda and meeting materials will be posted to the township website prior to the meeting date at newbrightontownship.org. As well, the recording of this meeting will be available on the township YouTube page within the next 4 to 36 hours. After all those announcements, I will now take a motion to adjourn. There a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.